In today's video, I'm going to show you how to make this wonderful diamond-shaped locked letter inspired by letters from the Renaissance. Paper was still a relatively new invention and was expensive, so people developed a series of intricate folding methods to be able to securely fold their letters in ways to protect the contents from prying eyes. This practice is referred to as letter locking. Stamps didn't exist yet. Instead, the receiver of a letter paid for its postage. Often, letters couldn't be paid for, were refused, or just never found their recipient. The postmaster and postmistress at The Hague in the Netherlands from 1689 to 1706, named Simon and Marie de Brienne, saved over 2,600 of these uncollected and unopened letters and stored them in an old trunk that is now part of the Postal Museum in The Hague. This particular design is referred to as the diamond letter and can be traced back to 1694, although, of course, it's possible its origins are much earlier. Last year, I made a video about the Victorian puzzle purse, and I'll link that in the description. But in many ways, I prefer the simplicity and cleverness of this design, and I hope you do too. I'll show you how to fold it, a bit about the design process, and then talk you through my final design. I'm really excited to share this one with you. So let's get into the folding. All you need to do the folding is a ruler, a pencil, and potentially a bone folder, although this is optional, but it does help make nice creases. For the sheet of paper, I find that 6 inches by 9 inches or 8 inches by 10 inches makes the perfect little square, although you can use any size paper really. This is a very simple design, especially compared to the Victorian puzzle purse. You start by just folding the paper in half from the bottom to the top. I like to use the bone folder to make a solid crease at every stage. At this top portion, we want to fold over a small lip. I find that 3/4 of an inch is a good size, so I'm going to measure 3/4 inch down here and 3/4 inch down here as well. And then I'll put my straight edge or my ruler on those 2 points and fold the paper up against the ruler to make sure that it's even on both sides. And then I'll go in with the bone folder and crease it some more. At this stage, we want to fold it in half again, the other way, but I found that if we open this back up first, it prevents any unnecessary creasing on the inside. So we just fold it up. And then once we open it, we can fold that crease back down. And that prevents any mess being made in there. Now we flip the paper over and we want to line up this edge with this inner crease. And it looks a little bit like a choir boy or a little robe, these lapels that come down. And then we do the same thing on the other side, lining up this edge along this inner crease. All right, so on the back side, you'll notice that there's this little pouch that's created, and that's how you know you're doing it the right way. But moving back over towards this end, we now have this little lip on the bottom. So we're just going to fold it up and crease that along the bottom. And the edge of this is about the same as each of these panels, which I think adds a nice symmetry. And it looks a little bit like a paper hat or a little sailboat. And then what you want to do is take the flaps on either end and just fold it over so that it looks like a perfect triangle. And then when you flip it on the other side, you can fold that crease a little better. Now what we want to do is take this bottom half and line it up along the crease on the inside here. The way that I find is best to do it is to open these up temporarily and as carefully as you can, line it up and then fold down. And then open it back up. There is a little bit of inevitable creasing that you will find. I can't find a way to remedy that. If you have a suggestion, I would love to hear it. I find in the overall design, it doesn't really matter too much. You could also iron it out later if you wanted to. And then we'll do the same thing on this side where we take this bottom and we line it up with this inner crease. All right, and then you fold these back over and you'll tuck each end in under the tip. And that's it. It looks the same on both sides, although the side that doesn't open always tends to look a little bit better. I'm still trying to perfect this design, but this gets it looking pretty good. And again, once you decorate it, you don't notice any of these little imperfections, so try not to worry about it too much. And then I like to think of this as the top, and you can then open it up and you have this little triangle. And then if you rotate it to the back and open this, you then have another design in here. Unfold the bottom and then it opens up. I really recommend making a few different versions of this before you do the design work because it will really help you understand how everything fits together. So what I did on this one is I just labeled everything as I opened it so that I could predict how I wanted to do the design work. So open is for the top pouch where these little lapels go in, and then front and front. And then I just labeled first panel, first panel, first panel. And then on the back, I noticed that I wanted to do it upside down if I turned it this way. So the writing is the opposite way. And for that reason, I decided to just put little design work so it didn't really matter so much because I like the idea that when you open it, you can have the second panel be facing the same direction when the entire puzzle is open. And I thought I liked the idea of doing it this way for design, but you can do it any way that you want. And then on the reverse side is where you would write your letter. And for mine, I thought I'd like to have a border at the top, a border at the bottom, and then some space in these triangles on the edge for writing letters or little notes, and then on the inside to have some artwork. And I'll show you a little bit about that process. Before I got started with any final designs, I just had a lot of ideas that I jotted down on just some simple notebooks because I find it lowers the stress if it's not done in an actual sketchbook. So I was playing around with different border designs here and here, and then I was playing around with, again, some more borders that were more Renaissance inspired, and then ideas of what I could put on the other side where I'm going to be writing the little notes and doing a little bit of additional artwork. I think it's really helpful to plan out ideas of things that you might want to do in advance because then you have an array of different designs and ideas that you can actually choose when it comes time to really playing around with the design. This was my first little mock-up, which I felt looked a little bit too childlike and not very Christmassy, but it gave me the idea. And there are certain elements in this one that I did decide to use in the final. So I wanted it to open up and then you would see Merry Christmas. And then as you just turn it this way and open the panel this way, you would see the Happy New Year. And then there are the birds from that top flap. And if you open it up this way, then you see the whole page spread. So it's really quite nice. It feels like a little intimate secret letter. And then on the reverse side, and you don't see any of this as you're opening the paper, it gives you all of this scope for the different design work. So play around with different ideas and see what you can come up with. Tag me on Instagram if you decide to make this because I'd really love to see the different designs that everybody comes up with. and have a lot of fun with it. This one is much easier than the Victorian puzzle purse, and I think it's a little bit sweeter as well. It folds up really easily, and I just can imagine people passing each other little notes like this, and how precious that would be to receive a little package like this, but then it opens up into a proper letter. These are the supplies that I'm going to use for designing the inside. I have an array of different point liners, and I have two mechanical pencils, a 0.5 and a 0.9. I've been finding that for drawing some of the sketches, I really like the smoothness of a 0.9 lead instead of a 0.5. And then I'm using two of the aquash brushes. I have the small nib and the large, and I don't think I need the medium. I think these two will do everything that I need. I have my bone folder, some kneaded erasers, and then for color, I have my selection of the Pentel watercolor pencils. You can use any watercolor pencils, but I find that even the inexpensive ones can get the job done just fine. This is the final design that I came up with, and I just am completely in love with it. I ended up using mostly just the watercolor pencils and fine liners, and I also used this dual metallic gold pen from Pentel, which gave these beautiful gold details that are subtle and not too overwhelming. I'm pretty pleased with the design overall. I love that it opens up and you have the whole Merry Christmas triangle, and then when you flip it over, it switches to more of a nature-inspired Happy New Year theme. And then as you open the whole letter, the bird that was at the top is now at the bottom. And then when you open the whole letter up, you have the whole Christmas and New Year message. But the best part about this is that all of the information on the other side is secret and hasn't been revealed at all in the unfolding. So you can then turn that over, and this is where you could write your letter or do a little personalized drawing or a personalized message. I decided to do some little nature-inspired borders with little animals, and I loved the New Year message of peace, joy, and love with some lovely little pastoral scenes and animals. And I did put in some plain lines here so that I could write some messages in these side corners. Then I have the little bluebird at the top and the little babies in the nest at the bottom, just to celebrate that whole idea of renewal that comes with a new year. And it folds up so simply that I prefer it really to the Victorian puzzle purse, because it's just such a clever little simple design, and who wouldn't love to receive a little message like this? So I hope that this has given you some ideas and inspired you to try your own. Please let me know in the comments which design you prefer the most, and if you are planning to give this a try yourself. I hope you all have a wonderful Christmas and a Happy New Year.